My name's Noah.
My name is Jake.
Tonight we're going to tell a little story. Now, all good stories have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And this story happens to have all three. It's a story about a man named Randall McDougan. One of the most evil, vilest creatures that ever done walked the earth. The time he went down to the gates of hell and peered through those fiery bars and looked right up at that devil. What do you say that?
I'm glad you asked. No.
Yes, sir.
That devil took one look and ran
Just
back
one
into
look.
his eyes. And it was enough. He said, McDougan, you best hit the yellow dusty trail. There ain't no place for you in heck.
He kicked him back to earth. But this story doesn't start here. No, this story starts with us truly, Jake and I. Now, when we was kids, there'd be ruby boys and emerald boys and boys down the road who liked to dig for diamonds and such. But we was gold boys, always mining and looking through those black hills for gold and never really finding much, which was unfortunate, but we would always have the hope somewhere inside that one day we might find that pot of, not pot of gold, but a hole full of gold. And so that never did happen. So days passed and nights passed and we got old, and eventually we thought, you know, it might be good to saddle up the horses and ride out looking for some more gold. So we packed up Buck and Daniels, our horses. I rode Buck and he rode Daniels. And we headed out to them hills. And we rode for what seemed like many, many moons. Moons would arc across the sky. That's how we counted days by and it was many moons. And eventually we reached a clearing where we figured we would tie up our horses to the rocks. Because every gold miner knows that if you bring a horse inside of gold, the horse will eat up all the gold. So all of it just munches it. So you never bring horses near gold. That's the one gold mining rule. So we tied up our horses and we proceeded on foot for what seemed like miles and miles and miles. And days passed, and eventually I started feeling at some point in the journey that there was a shadowy figure following us. And it bothered me, and I mustered up the courage to turn around and look. I don't mean the mustard that you put on your food, I mean the mustard that comes straight from the gut. And I turned around and I looked up the hill, and there was a shadowy figure just like I thought following us. And for every one step we took, he took two and a quarter. By the time we took 5 steps, he had taken 48, a lot more steps. And we was truly scared until eventually we found ourselves face to face with a giant wall of rock. And as we turned around, we was staring into the chiseled face of Randall McDougan. Now, Randall McDougan had brought his 2 best men, pistols on either side, and their 2 best men brought their 2 best men, and so on down the line. So we was faced with a lot of best men and Randall McDougan. And looking up into Randall McDougan is a scary sight. Folks around here say one of his eyes is a giant ball of glass. He had one glass eye, and the other eye is also glass. 2 glass eyes. He had a giant bristly mustache underneath his nose, and when you peeked up underneath it, there were 3 more mustaches. And beneath those mustaches, there were more mustaches, so that it was a face with glass eyes and mustaches. And he growled something mighty like the dogs of hell just growling from his throat. And I was truly scared in that moment, and I looked at Jake. Jake had a little twinkle in his eye, something special that I remembered. Way back at the start of our trip, he had packed himself a tiny little miniature guitar in his back pocket, straight for the journey, and he pulled that out right in front of Randall McDougan. And I was thinking, what's he doing, Jake? But he seemed some inner confidence was glowing inside his rusty heart. He put that little guitar on his knee, tiny and such, and he just started playing. And he looked at me and we started singing. What you gonna do when I see you with your glass eyes and I know you see us? You and your band of misfits wants to shoot us with your guns. So watch out, our McDougan, for this duel has just begun. Now we know you are hungry for us here traveling men, and we know we're in the midst of a nasty lion's den. So let's all take our paces and we'll face there towards the east. And before you so much as turn around, by God, you'll be deceased. Hey, Mr. Dugan, what you gonna do? We're just a couple of traveling boys and we need to travel through. Now we finished up our song and Jake put that tiny guitar back in his back pocket. And Randall McDougan breathed some fire from his nostrils. And he looked at Jake and put his fist inside his ass pocket, snapped that guitar right over his knee. And we was truly scared. But then I recalled a special something, a bond between man and horse, that had never been seen in lands of Earth before, Earthlands on Earth. There was something special about Daniels and Jake. Daniels, his horse, could sense the fear on Jake's brow from many miles away. And as Randall McDougan started to lift his pistol from his holster and pointed it right at Jake's head, out of the sky there arced a giant mysterious figure. And it was Daniels jumping over the rock and landing feet first onto the head of Randall McDougan and crushed his skull into a giant powder beneath the sand. And the whole earth stood still, and the winds whistled through the tumbleweeds, because there ain't no trees out there. And Jake looked up at that giant crowd of misfits, and they all seemed confused because their leader had just died. And Jake looked at the thousands of them, and he said, "My brothers, today you are free. Free at last, free at last. This land is your land, and this land is my land. From here to the banks of Mississippi, this land was made for us and you." And those men smiled something big and saddled up their horses, and they traveled off to their wives and children to live out their days. And Jake and I looked at each other and we smiled. We took our bags and threw them on the back of Daniels, and we rode off into the sunset, singing a little song. Hey there, Mr. Dugan, what you gonna do? We see you with your last eyes, and I know you see us too. You and your band of misfits wants to shoot us with your guns. But watch out, Art McDougan, for this duel has just begun. Now we know you are hungry for us here traveling men, and we know we're in the midst of a nasty lion's den. So let's all take our faces and we'll face there towards the east. And before you so much